My name is James Conrad, and you're listening to the Zen Disc Golf Podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode number 5 of the Zen Disc Golf Podcast. I am your host, Patrick McCormick, author of Zen and the Art of Disc Golf, and I have a very special show for you today. I just got done talking to 2019 USDGC champion, James CONRAD, and we had a wonderful conversation, and hopefully we're going to answer a lot of your questions about his big switch to MVP. But before we get started, I got to show you the disc giveaway for this show, and fittingly, it is an MVP Neutron particle, but get this. Cthulhu stamp, and that thing is beautiful. If you're just tuning into the audio podcast, you need to check out Instagram or Facebook to see what this disc looks like, or just log into YouTube. That's how you're going to win the disc. Super easy to win this disc. All you got to do is subscribe to the YouTube channel and make some kind of comment underneath this video about anything that James and I talk about. So, without further ado, let's talk to a man whose hair is as long as his run-ups, USDGC champion, James CONRAD. James, there's a lot going on in your world right now.
It's definitely busy right now. I'm glad to take this time, though. Thanks for having me on, Patrick.
Yeah, no worries. You're definitely hitting what I call the pod circuit. But when you told me last month that you had some big announcements coming this month and that it was going to be, some exciting stuff to talk about, who would have known that you would be shocking the disc golf world?
Yeah, I saw quite a few rumors that were people had a decent idea of it, I think, but I'm still really excited about it, and should be a fun future moving forward with MVP.
Yeah, see, you got your MVP T-shirt already on. You're representing.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right on, right on. So, I was on the MVP website this morning, and it already has what's in your bag. How do you have a bag already together?
Right. That's just kind of a really preliminary idea of what my bag is going to look like. They hooked me up with a ton of discs, obviously. And yeah, I've been throwing them for a little over a month now. So I have a pretty decent idea what my bag's starting to look like. That in the bag on their team website, though, will definitely be I'd say evolving over the next few months, even throughout the year, as I really dial in what I'm liking. And I imagine it will vary some course by course. Some of the more open courses don't have a lot of need for understable, or not quite as many need for slower discs compared to like when we get in the woods later in the season. I think I'll be shifting my bag a little slower, a little more understable.
Right on. And you're one of my Virginia brothers. Are you from
Yeah.
Blacksburg, or did you go to school there, or what's your relationship to Blacksburg?
Blacksburg is as close as anywhere to home. My family moved there in 2007, so I was 17 years old. I graduated from high school there in Blacksburg High School. Before that, we moved quite a few times growing up. My dad was in the Army for over 20 years, so it was kind of 1 to 3 years pretty much everywhere we lived. But they've been in Blacksburg ever since, and that's still as close as anywhere to home for me.
Right on. I used to hang out in Blacksburg a little bit when I went to college down in Radford, which was like 35, 40 minutes away from Blacksburg, something like that.
Yeah, right in there. My parents actually live pretty much smack dab in between Radford and Virginia Tech,
Pulaski County
right
area?
near the river. Yeah, near there. They're in Montgomery County, but it's all close.
Right on. So farmland.
Yeah, they got about 10 acres. They actually have a private course out there. It's a full 18 holes. It's called Dire Wolf Disc Golf Course, and it's pretty awesome. My dad plays with almost every group that comes out. He's said he's had so many new people coming out this past year with the pandemic. People have a lot more time, are looking for socially distanced activities they can do, and he plays with almost every group that comes out to his course, and he loves it.
Sure. So that's their course?
Yeah, it is.
That's
It's
really
not
cool.
huge, but it's really well done for just taking up 10 acres or so, and
Sure.
it's fun.
Yeah, next time I go up to and visit the area, I have to stop in. You said it was Dyerwood?
Dire Wolf.
Dire Wolf. Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, that
Yeah.
leads me into my first question about how you got started playing disc golf, because it sounds like your family was into it. I mean, they have their own course. Tell me your disc golf story.
It's a pretty long one. I hardly remember the beginning of it. It was back in the 90s. My dad played some ultimate frisbee back then, and um, yeah, one of my like one of his friends, it was one of my mom's friend's husband, basically introduced him to the game. Was like, oh, you like frisbee, you should try disc golf. And this was in Colorado Springs. I think it was around 1996. And after the first time he went, he was pretty much hooked, and started taking both me and my mom out pretty much right away. We moved to Montana shortly after that, and that's some of the first disc golf I remember playing. Was up in Missoula. We were playing at Blue Mountain and Patty Canyon pretty regularly. I was still, 7 to 10 years old, so I was just a little dude. And
Wow.
ever since then, it's kind of been part of my life. It wasn't a major part growing up. Like, it was a weekend activity. We'd go to some tournaments, go camping for tournaments, or to check out new courses. But um, now it's kind of the extent of it for me through high school and even on into my early 20s. It was a hobby. It was something fun. I always felt pretty naturally gifted, and I obviously put in a lot of hours. And with the disc golf pro tour starting in 2016, I saw some of the ads they were putting out basically for it, and I was like, man, I think I might have to try that. And took a few months unpaid leave from work in 2016 for the summer months, and went on a little 3-month tour that haven't looked back from yet.
The rest is history, huh?
Uh-huh.
I remember talking to Steve Dodge back in 2016 when he was first starting to put together the DGPT. And man, if we would have known back then what that was going to become, I mean that's huge.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm definitely grateful for Steve for all the work he put in. It's pretty amazing. Like, he definitely had a vision for it, and it's kind of out of his hands now, with the pro tour passing ownership and all that. But he's still definitely a major reason that it is where it's at now, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I've seen him in a couple videos riding around in a golf cart. I need to get him back on the show. But that's awesome. So
Nice.
disc golf runs in your blood, is in your family. At what point did you say you already mentioned that you said I took unpaid leave from work. What point did you think this is it? When you saw those ads or
um I guess it's hard to say. Wasn't super confident going out on the tour for the first time. I didn't really know what to expect. Like, I felt like I could probably keep up with most of those guys out there on the course. Um, but yeah, it's hard to say. And then I ended up, like, the first pro tour was 5 tournaments, and it was all over the course of those 3 months. It started at Maple Hill, went through Wisconsin and Minnesota and Illinois. There must have been one other, but through that, Green Mountain ended the series, I believe, and that was, yeah, the cumulative total on that. I made it in the top 8 in the Pro Tour points, and I felt like that was, yeah, good enough of an accomplishment that it warranted me continuing to pursue this. And more than just how well I did, it was just like a taste of the lifestyle of just being on tour, and putting all my time and energy into disc golf was great. Like, I fell in love with it that summer for sure, and wanted to make it work, whatever that took.
I love it. And when you mention that you love the tour and the lifestyle, can you divulge a little bit about the disc golf touring lifestyle? What is it about that you know? Were you just a big fan of Jack Kerouac and on the road, just trying to hit it and travel everywhere?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I was an army brat, so I was pretty used to moving a lot, and obviously nothing like every week, but definitely had a love for traveling and a love for, like, long car rides and all that, because I grew up with it. And So none of that seemed too difficult for me on tour. And then some of the plus sides just are the chance to see the whole country, and not really have a lot of obligations, I guess, like outside of disc golf. Have obligations to compete in the tournaments, but outside of that, it feels like a lot of my time is my own out on tour, and it's hard to beat that.
If somebody were to come up with the means to make a sort of like a real world documentary style disc golf tour thing for like Netflix, I
Mm-hmm.
bet it would be pretty good. Would we be allowed to watch it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it could be great. I think there's times where tour can feel a little dull at times. For me, it kind of depends on the area of the country. If there's not a lot to go do outside of the disc golf, it turns into a bit more of a grind. It's still fun, I'm getting to play disc golf all the time, which is great, but it, it starts to feel, I guess, more work like at those times. But when you're somewhere cool, like in the mountains or in beautiful forests, or if there's a lot of good music going on around you, those are the times that tour is the most fun, when you can combine the disc golf with some of the extra perks of traveling.
I gotcha. That sounds amazing. That sounds really fun. Another thing that you said was that you took leave off work, you took time off. My last podcast, I was talking to a Swedish professional player named Robin Viewman. I don't know if you've heard of him or not, but
Okay.
he was talking about the difference between American disc golfers and Swedish or Finnish, I guess is what they would be referred to as
Mm-hmm.
disc golfers, is that they have to this is what he said, they have to work. They can't just make disc golf a career. So I said, well, it's really only like the top 1 or 2% disc golfers by skill level that can actually go out
Mm-hmm.
there and do this. And I said, and even then you're sort of taking that leap.
Right.
And we talked about that for a little while, and I recommended a book for him called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which is all about jumping in and taking a leap and burning your bridges and saying to your boss, I'm going out on tour because this is what I'm passionate about. And some of the most successful
Mm-hmm.
people in life have taken that jump, um, which obviously has worked for you.
Awesome. Yeah. Would you repeat the name of that book again? Sounds
Uh,
really cool.
Think and Grow Rich. I can send it to you. I'll send a link to it. It's an old
Nice.
book. It was written in like the early like 1920s or so. And as I was telling Robin, the title, I think he was forced into calling it that, but I don't. If you get through the meat of the book, it's not about
Mm-hmm.
being rich or being money or having money and being successful. It's about that whole concept of following your passion and thinking positively and all the stuff that I wrote about in Zen and the Art of Disc Golf. It was a big influence for that book for me. But yeah, just
Nice.
taking that leap and saying, I'm going to go do this. But obviously that's worked very well for you, being in the top, like you said, top 8 in the first, just jumping out and being in the top 8.
Mm-hmm.
um, how are you preparing yourself now in the off season, other than, well, I guess the answer to that has a lot to do with MVP. So we can blend in a lot of that too. How are you
Mm-hmm.
preparing yourself for the season now?
I'm I'm trying to prepare in a few different ways. My girlfriend and I just got out to the West Coast, trying to find some nicer weather. I was in Blacksburg not too long ago, and it's just I don't have that much fun throwing when it's like 40 degrees outside. It's hard to get really good practice in. So I wanted to find some sunshine, find some good places to throw a lot of discs, and on top of that, trying to kind of watch what I'm eating, what I'm putting into my body. I think those are pretty important things. I'm not the best at it. I still divulge in some Taco Bell from time to time, but um, another thing I've been doing is trying to stay on top of my juggling practice. It's not a big thing, but it's just a good way to practice, staying present and kind of working on focus and some of the mental aspects. Yeah, it's obviously not like a one-to-one correlation between like the pressure of a disc golf tournament, but just being able to, put your focus on one thing and not let distractions get to you is pretty big, and that can translate between juggling and disc golf for me.
I love that. I love how one practice can bleed into another or blend into another. And juggling, yeah, that's like you have to have that sort of meditative focus to be in that mindfulness in the moment, just like disc golf requires.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of ways you can kind of get that same like flow state. I know yoga can be pretty good for it. I've had a couple of times in my life where I got a bit into yoga, and I'd like to practice much more regularly. I think that's another great way that you can really get in touch with your body and really be not only like increase your strength or flexibility, but just kind of have that time to yourself with yourself.
Sure, that's funny. This is the third podcast in a row of flexibilities come up, and I'm like the
Okay.
flexible person. I think this is the universe telling me I need to stretch tonight. So yeah, I've done a little. Go ahead.
I might compete with you in the least flexible person. I'm flexible in like a twisty kind of way, but I can't even touch my toes. Can't even pretend to. Like I'm not flexible in like vertical capacities at all.
So I was actually, and this is not a normal thing. I was getting a massage today, which
Okay.
maybe once every blue moon, also known as every 5 years. And so, and the masseuse she was I'm working on my lower back, the core area, I guess, is really tight. And she was, bending my knee up. And I said, I am really not flexible. She said, honestly, as far as men go, you're one of the most flexible men that have been. I said, that's awful, because I can't bend down. If I were to keep my legs straight to try to pick up my putter, it's not happening. It's not happening. And like, I've been doing a lot of the perfect putt 360, and
Nice.
and just that repetitive motion of picking up the disc. I think that's why I had to go to the masseuse.
Okay.
So I can identify with the bending over thing. But yeah, Eric McCabe mentioned flexibility being one of his biggest attributes for his skill level, and so did Robin Vielman, the Swedish player I was telling you about. So you're the third one to mention that. When you're getting ready for a tournament, what kind of preparation are you putting into that tournament versus, when you're on your off season? So a specific tournament.
For me, the difference is between preparing for a tournament and just preparing my body and myself for the tour in general. Depend a lot on the course. I feel like it's kind of evolving too as the longer I've stayed on tour. I'm not getting to courses and necessarily having to learn a course. I'm getting to a course that I've competed at the last 4 years already. So
True.
in those situations, it's just making sure that I feel good, that my body feels good, that my stroke, my putting stroke and my throw all feel clean, and then trying to put myself in the right mindset to really play well. That's different from like right now when I'm playing. I was at just a little 9-hole course earlier today, and I just had a stack of 10 putters, and I was throwing all 10 off the tee and then putting most of those. Just trying to really get in a lot of reps, trying to get comfortable, throwing new plastic, trying to yeah, just get in a lot of repetitions is really what my general practice comes to, trying to get as comfortable as I can with my throw and my putts.
Yeah, and I was going to say it's going to be different this go around because you are going to be throwing that different plastic. Would you say that that's the biggest hurdle for you right now, going into this new year is doing all new plastic?
It may be a hurdle. I'm definitely still learning the new plastic, but I'm excited about it. I think it will present some challenges, but I think it's also a good chance to maybe break some bad habits I had. Like I maybe leaned on certain discs too often just because I was so comfortable with them. and not having those to almost lean on as a crutch could in a way benefit my game. I'd maybe be more inclined to throw the right disc for the shot rather than just throwing the disc that I really like, if that makes sense.
But what's really funny about that is you are known for your shot shaping ability.
Right.
So regardless of what you're throwing, you're known to be able to thread it in a way that it needs to be threaded. So it'll be interesting to see you do the exact same thing. I mean, I'm not saying leaning on discs like crutches, but
Hmm.
to shot shape these MVP discs.
Yeah, I definitely plan to keep throwing them. Similar to how I have in the past. Like, I don't think my game's going to drastically change because of new plastic. I think I'll still be relying on a lot of the same shapes and the same, um, the same game plan, if you will. Like, I feel like I generally have an aggressive but somewhat safe like way I attack courses. I throw hard, but I usually try to just throw as straight as I can down the fairway and not like swing it out way out over the out of bounds or anything like that. And that way I expect to continue attacking courses the same.
So when you're switching from Innova to MVP, are you looking at the disc that you used to carry and looking at the shot shape that you were able to do with those, whether it's flight numbers or whatever you're looking at, weights, plastics, and then trying to find something comparable in the MVP line? Or are you just throwing what they have and saying, this works, this feels good?
I would say I would say a bit of both. Um, there's definitely certain discs that I was looking for. I was like looking for something that I could trust the way I've trusted my T-birds in the past, and the Volt kind of jumped out at me really quick that it was going to be a really similar fairway slot. Something that I can kind of throw on any angle I want. I can hit it hard on hyzer, or I can hit it hard forced over and get it to do a slow turn. So yeah, I was definitely looking to find discs that I could be comfortable with based on what I've thrown in the past. But I've also tried to keep an open mind and try out as many different molds as I can and try them on different shapes and see if anything new jumps out at me, something that maybe I didn't even realize I was missing in my bag. Um, that's an exciting process. It's fun to try new shots, try new discs, just to get out there and throw.
Sure. It's almost like a painter who gets a whole new set of paints and a whole new set of colors. You
Yeah.
go from Renoir to Van Gogh out on the disc golf course. Yeah, nice, nice. I love it. Are you going to be able to throw the Axiom and the Streamline lines as well, or?
uh, yeah, I think that this first season I'm going to focus on overmold discs. Um, I think Streamline makes some great discs, but MVP and Axiom between those two have pretty much a full lineup as well. And I think that it could be easy to just go to the new company and just throw all those solo mold discs. So I think fully committing to the overmold technology and really getting comfortable with those is a fine move for me. And I think I think it'll be fun. I may, if I'm finding a hole in my bag, something that I need, I could always, I'm sure I could find something to fill that slot in the Streamline disc, and I'm sure they'd be fine with that. But for this first season, they were hoping I could, focus on the MVP and Axiom.
Sure. So tell me about the jump a little bit from Innova to MVP. I know you've been answering this question a lot on your pod tour, but tell me about the jump. Whatever you can divulge and whatever you'd like to let the listeners know about what how it benefited you and what you're getting out of it and what we can expect.
Sure. Yeah, it's been a fun process. I'd say I was a little hesitant to leave Innova for just because I was in my comfort zone there, and that's obviously a comfortable place to be. But I feel like I was kind of stuck in my ways. Also, I wasn't posting, I wasn't doing this, I wasn't doing that. I was just going out there and throwing my T-birds and my Thunderbirds and my AVRs, and that was about it. And I felt like a switch, like a big switch, like a sponsor change, could be a good time to kind of start putting myself more out there and looking at the social media side of the disc golf and treating it more as a career more than just what I was doing. And so yeah, I felt like it would have been easy to keep doing things the way I was doing if I stayed with Innova. And then MVP was really interested in helping me build up my personal brand. They were really interested in yeah, treating me like an MVP, if you will. But everything they said to me was really promising and sounded like it would be a good company to tie myself in with and move forward with.
Were they more encouraging along the lines of, like you say posting and media, but essentially all that is building your brand and building your followership. Did they encourage you more in that realm than say Innova did?
Uh, they definitely encourage it. I think in their mind that the bigger the James Conrad brand is, the better it is for them. So they're definitely interested in helping me in any way I can, and that benefits both of us and just helps the relationship in all aspects. I think that in the past with Innova, I'm sure I guess they're just their focus was maybe just spread a little more thin. They had they have a lot more like top level players, so what I was doing or wasn't doing maybe wasn't as important to them. Um, I definitely don't hold anything against Innova. They've treated me well, and I think if I had been a little more aggressive or a little let's see, if I had been just trying to put myself out there a little more, they would have been encouraging that as well. But it wasn't something they really asked of me, so it made it easy for me to kind of neglect that.
Okay. All right. So tell me about this brand that you're going to be building. I understand that you're going to be working to create some new discs through MVP.
Yeah, definitely. Um, the first one's already in the works. The first one is going to be a putter. So far, the hardest thing about the transition was finding a putting putter that feels great in my hand. So I've been able to sit down with their engineer and really dive into what about a putter I like and what little aspects of it would be ideal for me. And that should already be in the works. So that's super exciting. And yeah, I think having my own brand of disc within the MVP Axiom family will be awesome for me. It'll be really cool to see fans all over the place throwing discs that I've helped design, and then I think it'll also be a really good tool for MVP to um, kind of bring new fans in. I think that
Sure.
has worked really well in the past when other companies have done something similar, and I think it's a great opportunity for both of us.
So what does a JC MVP putter look like?
Um, well, I haven't seen it yet, but I think
What's it feel like?
it might feel somewhat AVR like, but it won't be like an exact clone. That's what I've been putting with for 20 some years, so it'll probably have some similarities, but it'll be an overmold and it will be, yeah, it'll definitely be tweaked and it should feel great.
Hello, friends. I just wanted to take a second and answer a question I've already been asked several times within the new season of the podcast. And that is, hey, Pat, how can I help you keep going strong with this podcast? And the answer is just subscribe on YouTube and make comments and watch these videos. What that does is that really helps the algorithm on YouTube push these videos to more viewers. And then, of course, there's always the books and the apparel that's available on zendiscgolf.com. One of the ones I'm very excited about is the new book, Disc Golf Strategies and Tactics. And if you haven't already seen this book, it's about double the size of the last several books. And it really delves into both the physical and the mental sides of disc golf. So I think there's something in here for everybody. It's split up into 5 parts. It's split up into discs, throws, weather, preparation, and competition. and it goes in depth as I possibly could go with everything that I've learned or could find or have interviewed other people about to make your disc golf game better. So, subscribe, make comments, watch videos, and if you feel inclined to, purchase the books on Amazon, the apparel on zendiscgolf.com, and let's get back to the show. We've got to talk about the run up.
Yeah.
We have to talk about that at some point. The quintessential James Conrad run up. How did that develop, and how did you manage to create that and also have as much control as you have over the disc?
I wish I knew the exact answer to that one. I'd say I kind of developed my run up probably in high school, maybe even younger. High school we were living out in Colorado, in Montrose, Colorado, on the western slopes. And as I was going through puberty, I was really interested in just learning to throw the disc as far as I could. So we'd go out to soccer fields or what have you. And I didn't really have any coaches or any like YouTube that I was watching. I was just my dad plays and he'd be out there with me, so we'd bounce some ideas off each other, but just
Does
felt
he
like
do
I
a
could
run up
throw
like
it.
yours? Does he do one like yours?
Not as exaggerated. He's tall like I am, so it's definitely significant, but definitely not as much of a run up as for me. But yeah, it just felt like I could throw it farther if I was kind of running faster when I threw it. And I'm not sure, it might have to do with like fast twitch muscles. Like I was a long distance runner in high school as well, so it just made sense. Like I don't quite have that explosive pop that some of the guys have, and in order to kind of compensate for that, I feel like just getting as long of a pull on the disc as I could allowed me to get the most distance I could, the most power I could, and then just from countless repetitions, throwing like that, I learned to really control it and really fully commit to the lines I was throwing and have some pretty solid accuracy with a pretty aggressive run up.
Yeah, you do. Nobody does. Nobody has a run up like yours, first of all, and then nobody can control it like you do. If I were to do that, I would shank it. I would early release it. I'd be all over the place. But you are not only able to do that long run up, but you have that pinpoint accuracy that like we were talking about earlier. I call it Virginia style. This wooded style disc golf requires, North Carolina style disc golf requires. So, but not only can you do that, but you're also able to throw these slower discs further than anybody else. So you're able to come down and throw these long putter shots or fairway driver shots where everybody else is throwing a destroyer, you're throwing a T-bird.
Yeah, I think that's one of the strengths of my game for sure. I would say I started to develop that. Like I said, we lived in Colorado in high school, and then we moved to Virginia in 2007, right before my senior year of high school. And the local course in Blacksburg is a very, very tight course. Lots of up and downs and lots of trees and not long holes. So I just would go out there with pretty much a handful of putters and throw all the putters off each hole, and got comfortable, just really comfortable with how they came out of my hands and with how they flew. And that kind of translated up into the fairway driver game for longer courses. But yeah, I just find the most success, throwing the disc as straight as I can, and the slower discs seem to do that a little better. So I lean on them. I'm sure there's quite a few other guys out on tour that could throw those discs just as well as I do. They just maybe don't want to as much, or they've just spent their time throwing more hyzers or throwing the big over the top shots more, where I focus my game on throwing the straighter shots that I can.
I love it. And I have an ongoing joke with my little league, the buddies that I play with all the time. Almost every time we go out, we'll be like, hey, do you want to go play new quarter? Or be like, all right, putters only. We're always putters only. And no, Patrick,
Nice.
we're not doing putters only. So if you come down to Williamsburg, that's where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
James Conrad, Pat McCormick, putters only. And I get, your par threes will be my par sixes. No, but for real, for long putter drives, I always like to give my listeners something that they can take to the course. Um,
Hmm.
let's talk about driving with putters because you are very proficient with that. What tips can you give my listeners with putter drives?
There's there's two ways that kind of work similarly to, you can go with an understable putter and get like the slow flip up to flat, or what I tend to lean on more often is a overstable putter that you can kind of crack on a little bit of ante, and it's stable enough that it's fighting out of it the whole way, but basically results in a nearly straight shot. And depending on the shape of the hole or what you're going for, either of those can be just as powerful. Um, I I find that the overstable putter shot, just forced over just a little bit, is probably the most consistent and the easiest way to get a long putter shot. You just need to throw it high and have a lot of spin on it, and it'll just kind of keep pushing forward, maybe slowly pull into the right. And I think that's a really useful shot to get comfortable with. Just throwing it on a little bit of anhyzer, nice and high, something stable enough that it doesn't roll over into the ground. You can get some really nice flights that way.
Yeah, that's always the hazard with coming off the and I love putter tee shots as well. But, when you throw it so hard, just it turning over and just going hard to the right, on a backhand. But
Hmm.
so overstable, slight ante, chuck it.
Chuck it. Yeah, and a whole bunch of times. It definitely
Reps.
takes practice. There's no magic tip to get amazing at it, short of just trying it a lot. You know. Another thing
So
you can think about is nose angle. Like if you're burning it over, you might have your nose a little down, and that kind of makes it one to turn. If it's kind of hyzering out really early, you might be throwing nose up, which can be also a really useful shot to kind of throw it nose up on purpose and just let it almost stall out and
stall
kind
shot.
of float down. But yeah, the nose angle is pretty big on putter, and just getting a really nice amount of spin without overthrowing it. It's more about the spin than about how hard you actually throw it.
Where can people find you, James?
You can follow me on Instagram at James_Conrad_III. That's where I'm focusing most of my social media presence, for the time being. And in the very near future, I'm going to be publishing a personal website, jamesconraddiscgolf.com. That's where you can find some James Conrad merch, like some shirts or hats. Have
Cool.
some of that in the works, and should be out really soon, in the next week or so.
Fantastic, James. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, and I appreciate you. You have so many big things ahead of you, and we'll be watching, and I'll be rooting for you. I'm definitely a fan.
Thanks, Pat. Take care.